Welcome to my YouTube channel. We're talking politics today and Trump news. The plot thickens. The Trump administration on its way to making America great again. At least the mantra or the belief that the Trump followers are investing in, because the country is changing, and a lot of things that has happened in the past, okay, are being exposed, and a lot of people are in denial. A lot of people being thrown under the bus. People are being blamed for, the mishaps and misconceptions of what's going on because, the Doge, they're finding frivolous spending all over the place. And then you have the opposition aiding a narrative to combat and go against the findings of the Trump administration. And I got to let you know, a house divided cannot stand. So therefore, if there's always going to be an opposition, then going to be the togetherness that the American people wish and hope we can connect as a country. Because what the Trump administration is doing is shedding the light on things that we just trusted that our elected officials was doing their job. Good morning to you. And what we're finding out is, and this is a very hard pill to swallow. It seems as though, and I could be corrected, that all our elected officials up until this point, they're compromised, because based on what's going on, it seems as though that all our elected officials represent something that we don't see. Okay. And when I'm saying this, like that the American people, we put these individuals in office. Okay. We help them win an election, but they don't do the work, the job, or the will of the people. And this is what we're learning. And this is what the Trump administration uncovering, because when you look at the Social Security Department, USAID, all the frivolous spending, when you look at all of these things are literally anti-American things that's going on. Because why are we investing so much in foreign issues when we have issues at home? So I'm going to pretty much break down Trump news, and I'm going to show you a clip real quick. The blame game is real. Reid got canned. She got canceled. And all I got to say to Reid is, if you're going to put all your eggs in one basket, then, fate is what it is. We're going to talk about that. And then in local news here in Los Angeles, California, Karen Bass fired the police chief, and she's literally blaming her what's going on with the fire. So it is what it is. So I'm gonna play a clip, because we got to catch up. Okay. Because last week I had a lot of things going on. So we're going to have to catch up. And believe me, in days to come, we're going to start dropping content, because the Trump administration is pretty much set the table and set the bar for us as American peoples to really understand how this thing works. I'm even hearing conversations about that the officials, when it come to Congress, they're pretty much so necessary based on the Constitution. We really got to have these conversations. So I'm gonna play a clip, and I'm gonna get in these comments and see what your thoughts are, or if this thing is real. Because last week Trump had a press conference, and they basically opened the door and pretty much start having conversations with with Social Security, and they found out that they were sending out hundreds of thousands of checks to dead people. Think about that. Hundreds of thousands of checks to dead people. And Trump did a press conference at Mar-a-Lago, and he pretty much read off the ages, some of the recipients of these checks. And to keep it a buck with you, meaning keep it 100 with you, all those checks have been cashed. So who's the recipients of these check payouts? So check this little short out real quick, and then I'll jump in the comments, and then we'll continue with the show this morning.
360 years old. I said, wow, that's really something. We have a very corrupt, millions and millions of people over 100 years old. Wait a minute. people from 160 years old to 169 years, 121,000. So 160-year-old people. 170 to 179,000, 687. From 200 to 209 years old, 879 people. From 210 years old, I haven't met any of them. And if I did, I would bless them.
200 years old.
They walk on. 210 to 219 years, 866. From 220 years old to 229 years old, 1,039.
Wow.
And then you have two people.
He's not finished.
From 240 years old to 209 years old.
Wow.
And there's one person that's 360 years old.
Wow. Exactly. Think about that. Think about that. What's your thoughts? And somebody put in the comments, what's spent specifically. And this is pretty much spending from the Social Security, Department of Social Security. So these are, hundreds of billions of dollars are being found that's being sent and being put in somebody's bank account. Whose bank account are these checks going to? Because we know that there's not one person that's on record over the age of 120. If so, they would get Guinness Book of World Records. And then when you talk about 150, 160, 300 years old, we got to really think about what's wrong, because a house divided cannot stand. Somebody has been running a scam on the American people. Something has been running a scam on the American people for a very long time. And this is why, in hindsight, when you look back, is when they say, oh, Donald Trump is a threat to our democracy. Yes, because their democracy is based on corruption. Donald Trump is a threat to their democracy. Yes, this is why their democracy tried to assassinate Donald Trump, because they know without a shadow of a doubt that they've been doing some strange things. And it is crazy that we have no term limits in the Congress and Senate. So you have career politicians that's worth 20, 30, 40, $50 million when the salary is approximately $250,000. So what are we going to do? So what I'm suggesting is that we, instead of arguing, instead of debating, that we need to focus more on solutions. And right now, you've tuned into A Better Black America TV, Talking Politics today. Our mission statement is to seek solutions and resolutions to create a better America. Okay, because America is our country. Our ancestors, fought to make her what she is today. And it is our opportunity to do our due diligence in this lifetime to make educated decisions, to come together, to get rid of the racism, to get rid of the crime, to get rid of the division, start working together. Because when I read the Constitution, it says domestic tranquility. So we need to be tranquil here in. So when you talk about the United States investing in the USAID, which is another corrupt organization, where 68% of its funding in terms of $40 billion annually goes to paying the employees. And we got to really have that conversation. So the Trump administration, along with Elon Musk, they're doing what we call something, that we've never seen before. And if you did not know, over the weekend, Elon Musk emailed federal workers and pretty much sent out a blast email to the federal workers. And I'm speaking on D.O.G.E right now, Department of Government Efficiency. He sent out a blast email. He said, hi, I'm Elon Musk, the whatever he is, a D.O.G.E. What did you do this week? Send me a 5-bullet point of what you did this week. And they went crazy. Oh, we don't work for Elon. We don't do this. And then the Trump administration came out this week and pretty much stated that the reason he sent the blast email is just to see who's reading their emails, who's actually working. And if you are working, what did you do? And there was some misconceptions, meaning if you don't respond to the email, you're going to get fired, because the media finds ways to spin things because of this is just what they do. But it was a blast email just to find out who's working, who's responding, who's on their job, who's doing their job. And this is, anybody that's been in corporate America, you got to get to work. You got to do your job. And sometimes, it's your turn. Because when you look at all the spending and the layoffs of the federal workers, the layoffs in the Department of Education, the layoff USAID, you got to understand that America cannot survive or thrive if it continues to overspend. Okay. Outflow is greater than your inflow, then that would be your demise. In the last 4 years in the Biden administration, our outflow surpassed our inflow. And now you have the Trump administration finding funding that can actually stop the bleeding. And then you look at the news. Oh, it's only 2% of this, 10% of that, 2% of this, and all of this is not going to. OK, but the first thing you have to do is stop the bleeding. That's the first thing you got to do. Appreciate with you. Let me see here. I like to chat. You seem to be open-minded. I'm very open-minded, very open-minded. So go ahead and chat. You threw a couple dollars in there. I appreciate you. So listen, if you are, bleeding out and you stop the bleeding and they sit back and say, oh, that didn't do anything. Yes, it stopped the bleeding. It saved a life. OK, so now we won't spend. The year after that, we won't spend. This quarter, we won't spend. So obviously going to make some sense. OK, my man said, let's start with USAID. USAID. What's your question about US? We know without a shadow of a doubt, USAID stands for United States Association for International Development. And as an American citizen, we need to develop domestically. OK, develop domestically. And I'm speaking to Anonymous. OK, and he put a little few dollars in there. So USAID, clearly, we talked about it last week. Not sure if you were live chat, but let's get into USAID, because we know that, their annual budget. OK, USAID, the United States Agency for International Development, budget school year of 2024 has $1 billion, $21.7 billion to foreign aid. Think about that. We spend all of our money on foreign aid when we need domestic aid. OK, and we know that the secretary or the chairman of USAID stepped down last week. We know that they can't even, justify or actually in the midst, because everything that they deal with, Congress has to approve. OK, and when you're dealing with Congress, just say, for example, OK, this is allegedly, you have a Congress that go create a international deal across the country. We don't know where the money goes. We don't know where the budget goes. And that's the craziest thing. Now, USAID, this foreign aid is beneficial to America because, let me see, you can guess who is going to give it. And if we don't, so it's a benefit to America. But if you have a small child in your home, Anonymous, if you have a small child and your child, that's your child is hungry, child needs his bare essentials and his necessities, who are you going to take care of first? You're going to let your child starve, and then you're going to go outside to your neighbors where their children eat. OK, but the only way that it can be beneficial to those foreign countries is if it's beneficial to America. So USAID needs to eat off of our not a priority and not a 21.7 billion annual budget to basically develop internationally. Think about it. And let me see here. You know what I'm saying? And that makes China the international allies, given the control of the international markets. I totally understand that. But we're not, as American citizens, as we see it, we're not doing what we're supposed to do. Now, we can be smart and strategic. Just like I read an article last week that the Congo is looking for America to invest in purchase Congo because of the gold, the minerals, because of China in their country. They rather deal or have a pact with America. Now, we could be smart and strategic on how we do it, and it's very important. But if you look into the books, if you look into the stats, if you see all the that's going on, then you have to really much, stop it, figure it out, find out where the wasteful spending, because we don't need to be investing $700 $1 million and dropping condoms in countries. That's not our problem. So we really got to really figure this thing out. We really got to figure this thing out. So it is what it is. So USAID, yes, is beneficial, but just like the Department of Education is beneficial. And I'm speaking to Anonymous. But when it's not effective, okay. Now, the Department of Education, if we were ranked in the top 5 in terms of education in the public school sector around the world, justify making sure that the Department of Education continues to do what it do. But when you have you're ranked 30th in math, and out of 40 countries, we rank 40th. And I'm not talking about the great schools. I'm talking about the lowest of the lowest public schools. And we're not educating our children. Then we have to have this conversation, just like with anything. As a smart human being in a corporation, you get audited. And right now, the government is being audited for their wasteful spending. They're finding wasteful spending. They're finding frivolous spending, and they also are finding fraud. So we can be smart, because I'm an optimist person, Anonymous, and we can actually do what we call the win-win. We can put the right people in charge, the right people in the right places to make those educated decisions, to make sure that we stay, our international investments. But at the end of the day, we got to make sure we take care of home, because I bought in and I'm in to what we call America first. It is what it is. And Shantae put in there, USAID was supposed to have been supported by donation, etc. Basically, it was a nonprofit that started using American funds to fund the programs because of the growth. And see, basically, they took that, and I'm talking to Shantae now. Basically, they took that nonprofit organization and turned it into a for-profit organization, meaning we can get our hands on this nonprofit. If we could control the money, we can control where it goes. Just like we just looked at the video where somebody's 300 years old, SSI checks that were literally cash already, then somehow the scam, just like with the American government, they find a way. So just like, they'll take a great idea. Your intent was amazing. You had great intent. But then all of it, they said, you know what? We can find a way to take 5% of the annual budget and somehow, spread it around in our bank accounts, because it is a corrupt organization. It is fraudulent. We do need it, but we have to right now stop the bleeding and have some conversations about it right now. And if we will continue, okay, because America is not going to stop doing what it's doing. So Donald Trump's speaking about purchasing Greenland. Okay, Donald Trump speaks about investing in Gaza, making it the Riviera of the Middle East. Okay, I wouldn't have any problem using that funding as long as Americans get those contracts, Americans get those jobs, Americans get those investment opportunities, because at the end of the day, this country, and we need to do what we need to do. Let me see here. Less than 20 workers, and this is anonymous, less than 20 workers for the entire of Africa. How will 20 people manage all of Africa? Well, we shouldn't even be managing Africa. Okay. And this is why we have the United Nations, and this is why we have our ambassadors. This is why we, literally do what we do. So we can and we will. Because like I said, I'm an optimistic person. I'm a person I could and read, and at the same time, I could do multiple things. And I believe that we as American people, we can actually figure it out if we just sit down and have conversations instead of canceling out, arguing, and debating. It is what it is. I mean, literally, who are any of them? I mean, we have no clue. We have no clue. It's a scam. OK, and I'm speaking on who said that. OK, Hack It Garage. It's all a scam. It is what it is. Does USAID fund these fact check laughing? Absolutely. Because the federal government controls all. Think about it. The federal just think about COVID and all the things that was going on. OK, this is the biggest scam. You got some evildoers in high places. You got just a few people who are foreign nationals, anti-American, individuals that bring down countries, okay, that are investing in our politicians, investing in our elected officials, getting them elected by the people. And then when they go to Washington, they push policies and agendas that's based on the individuals that cut the checks. They're major donors. Look at the individuals who took money from Planned Parenthood. This is how you can have a being ask a question, a congressman or a senator. Okay, should there be term limits on abortion? Okay, what is it? First trimester, third trimester? What is it? And they'll sit back and say, I respect the woman's right to choose. And then the donors will say, good boy, because Planned Parenthood wants body parts. Planned Parenthood wants, babies and, want to abort. That's what they do. Just think about it. Just think about it. It's all politics. It's all politics. And I got one more for us, unless you kick in another 196. And I like that number, 1619. I appreciate you. Let me see here. While I respect you and share some beliefs, if you are going to dismiss fact checkers as paid off, then let me see here. No, listen, we're the fact checker. I'm basically saying that I don't trust the fact checkers because I'm a smart individual with what we call the the greatest phenomenon, the information superhighway. We can actually find and fact check these things. The court of public opinion is real. OK, the court of public opinion is real because during COVID, they were back. Basically, if you said something about that went against Dr. Fauci, if you said something that the liberals, if you say something that went against the shot mandators, okay, they would actually flag your Instagram, flag your Facebook, flag you on social media because they want to control. They don't want any individual free thinkers because individual free thinkers are free. OK, and they will inspire and motivate others. But we have a federal government that right now is dismantled as we speak because the federal government should not doing all the overreach that they do. The government should not be this big. The government should not be paying 68% of the USAID budget to employees. OK, so where's all this money going? Oh, to the workers, to the development of these countries. The Department of Education is too big. OK, it should be to the states with some type of oversight from the government perspective, meaning the states are smart enough to run their educational systems. We should not have a budget of $218 billion annually going for the Department of Education when every state got a local government in terms of city. They got federal government in terms of, or state government in terms of governor. So why do we need Washington, the District of Columbia, getting $218 billion pretty much have oversight over the United States when each state is different? Some states are urban, some states are conservative, some states are big, some cities are big, some cities are small. There should not be just one situation. So this is how we get to, where we are right now. And the Trump administration is exposing it all. But those fact checkers can be bought as well, because with the COVID mandates, if you did not know, they finally came out with the side effects. And I'm going to do a video on that one. Pfizer finally came out with the side effects, and it's over 42 different side effects associated with the Pfizer shot. But if you would have said this, during the COVID time, the fact checkers would have cut your page off. So really think about that. Think about that. My speech was banned from Facebook just because I supported Trump. And see, this is why, America is under the microscope right now. Because as American citizens, we should be able to, our First Amendment right is the freedom of speech. We should be able, to have that freedom and that liberty. OK, we should, look at something and challenge it. And then at the end of the day, if the foundation is strong and it can't be, no lies or no deceit is there, and then it can withstand the test of time because it'll make us free. But when you sit back and you have a group of people who feel that there are, in power to where they can actually control what we say, that's dangerous. That's dangerous. And this is why, their democracy is dismantled. OK, this is why the individuals that support their democracy is losing their job. And I'm going to take one more, and I'm going to Joy Reid, who is actually canceled, just to confirm what we're saying. And Shantae said, okay, even statistics opinion, everyone has separate opinion, reactions and readings. Our research is based on the effect. Nothing is percent. I totally agree with Shantae on that. Okay. And if I had my deck set up, I will give you an applaud right now. So listen, it is what it is. So just think about what we're talking about, the conversation and then let's talk about right now in terms of Joy Reid on the Readout. The MSNBC show was actually canceled. And when I heard of this, it kind of a certain way, because why is MSNBC firing her? Because they are the individuals and the fact checkers that hired her and give her a script every night to do her show. But my advice to her, my advice to you, do not put all your eggs in one basket. There's individuals that I know, people of high stature, of pastors, of corporate executives, that 1,000% down with the Democratic Party. And now they pretty much show their face because they're on the wrong side of history. And individuals like myself who pretty much did not believe what they were telling the herd. And I went and I was trying to figure it out, because as a political strategist, political commentator, a political science major, I did not see any pathway to victory for Kamala Harris in this election. But if I go to Fox News, Trump was small margin. But if I go to the liberal news, the MSNBCs, the CNN, Kamala Harris has a large, it looks like she's going to win all the swing states. There's no way a felon, there's no, Donald Trump could beat her, yada, 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 yada. And then next thing you know, on election day, she got smashed. And I've never seen it. This was worse than defeating, whoever he went against this first two terms. OK, this was crazy. And then now when you think about the corruption, and you think about what's really going on in the world, and you think about the fact check, the MSNBC, who literally fired Joy Reid for doing her job, this is what you call the blame game, because the ratings has a large part in the firing. They built this show based on hatred. They built this show based on what they call Trump deranged syndrome. And the American people really want to know, what's our pathway moving forward? American people really want to know that. The American people are not just sitting back, because Trump's in office. But the sad thing about it is, and when I see people who were on the wrong side, and they pretty much was, in the herd, speaking for the herd, just basically saying what they're told to say. And then now they're sitting back saying, oh, what is Donald Trump doing for y'all now? Oh, you guys are going to see what's going to happen. They're not American citizens. Just think about that, as if they're not American citizens. If anything happens to this country, it's going to happen to all of us. And we have some individuals that's in control right now that I respect. Like I said, as a member of corporate America, as a business owner, multiple EINs, I understand what their job is. Their job is to get America back on track. And that's an opportunity for all American citizens to rise with the tide. Okay. So for Joy Reid, getting fired, I know without a shadow of a doubt who's next. There's a lot of people on the chopping block. It's a lot of people on the chopping block. Okay. And before I move on, I dislike anything against this country. That's mentally insane. It's like, you're just mad that you believe what they told you, and you didn't take, you're not smart enough or wise enough to stand your own merit and trust and believe in the truth that you will find, because the truth shall make us free. And in terms of just firing Joy Reid, I don't think she was a D.E.I or anything like that. But she is being the scapegoat for MSNBC, because somebody in the executive office had to, on a daily basis, approve the script and approve her talking points on her show called The Readout. And we know SNBC is a liberal news station, and they're anti-American, anti-Trump, and they're the most racist ever. Because if you don't think black people could be racist. The only individuals, the most hateful and racist people are those that cry racism. When they sit back and say, oh, Donald Trump's racist. No, yes. Okay. Because an American citizen is an American citizen. And this is how they live their lives. Okay. Just be who you are. Okay. Respect gets respect. And I appreciate the fact that the president said everything right now is based on merit. And just to turn the page on that, if you did not know local news, everybody know that LA had some horrific fires, worse than we've ever seen. And Mayor Bass, as of yesterday, she fired the Los Angeles Fire Department police fire chief, Kristen Crowley. Okay. And like I said, I didn't have to get a fact checker. I did my own due diligence and I looked it up. Chief Crowley came into to be a chief. She was promoted from a lieutenant to the chief of the LA Fire Department in 22. Okay. In the height, in the peak, in the epicenter of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And if you did not know, the benefactors of diversity, equity, and inclusion is white women. Okay, look at this. Look it up. You guys are smart. And for Kristen Crowley, she checked all the boxes because not only was she a hire, which made white women look like we have diversity with equity and inclusion. We have a white woman in there. And then she checked for the LGBTQ Elemental Peace Society because she's a lesbian. Nothing's wrong with that. But she checked those boxes. And now Mary is throwing her under the bus. And her explanation as to why she's firing Crowley, she didn't do her post report. Okay, Crowley turned in her post report in terms of her narrative, her synopsis as to what happened with the fires. And they pretty much told her, we're not going to accept it, redo it. And she refused to lie for the mayor. Let that sink in. A female mayor telling a female fire chief to lie. But somehow Crowley said, I can't do that. Okay, because the findings are true. The budget cuts, hurt the department, meaning we had to freeze the hiring. And they also confirmed that the maintenance department was depleted because it had no money based on the budget cuts. And then Karen Bass literally is throwing her under the bus. Karen Bass said that she was not informed of the winds that were coming. She was not informed, but on local news, they're totally debunking that story because the union and the fire department have come in defense of Crowley, pretty much showing on public record that Karen Bass knew starting on December 29th that these things were coming. And every day they put out a memo. But on the 4th of January, the mayor of Los Angeles went to Ghana when she pretty much stated she would not be traveling internationally as mayor because as a senator, she traveled a lot. Okay. She goes down to Puerto Rico. She leaves the country. She's doing the business. You know how they get money. But he promised and pretty much signed a affidavit that as mayor, if she's not in the city of Los Angeles, she will be in Sacramento or she will be in D.C. But somehow, some way, she went to Ghana. And she's basically saying that Crowley did not inform her about what's going on, which is literally a blatant lie. We're going to tell the truth and shame the devil. And then I just want to share this with you. And I hope some of you are from LA and really understand what's going on because this is local news and this is very personal because my January 6th and the morning of my birthday, I'm looking at the ocean. It's a beautiful day. Those fires didn't kick in to around 10:30 to 11 a.m. Okay. So shift change. Karen Bass said, she was she basically dropped the ball. She sent home 1,000 firemen. And how did she send home 1,000 firemen? At shift change, there were no fires, there were no alerts. It was just windy. Okay. And in Crowley's defense, they basically said if she had in 1,000 firefighters, how are they going to get to their destinations? Because we have a maintenance yard of over 100 fire engines that have not been worked on, that are inoperable because of the budget cuts. You see what I'm saying? You understand how it's a blame game? And if you think about it, Karen Bass says she sent them home. She sent them home. She sent home 1,000 fighters. No, it was a shift change. You worked the graveyard shift. And during your whole shift, we've been getting alerts and mandates, but during your whole shift, everything was fine. Now it's time for you to go home. The new shift is coming in and it's like, okay, you guys have a good shift. We're out of here. Okay, the pass downs are written. Okay, you got your notes. Everything went smooth. Nothing happened. Okay, so we go home. Karen Bass says in a press conference that Crowley personally sent them home. Now, the truth is, if she held them over, that's the talking point. But I'm sure based on Bass's reading, she really don't understand that. She just reading, the paperwork that they give her, because it's hard to trust an individual who basically to read things because somebody wrote that. OK, and this I have a liking towards Donald Trump because he's up. He might have the teleprompters, whatever, but he's going to shoot it how he wants to shoot it. And then he'll get back to the written statement. But when you have individuals reading Fire Chief Crowley, she's over 1,000 firefighters home. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not true. This is not true. And they're having city meetings today where she appeal. And if I was Crowley, I would actually sue the city of Los Angeles. But who would have thought that a female would throw another female under the bus? So this is DEI at its greatest. Because Mayor Bass pretty like I said, allegedly, okay, because the power goes downhill. And I can imagine Gavin Newsom calling Bass and basically saying, you're going to have to do something with Crowley because the truth is she's making us look bad. Because when they asked her what happened, and she basically said, and this is the fire chief of Los Angeles at the time, who was recently demoted / fired by Karen Bass, the mayor. She basically said her fighters had no water to fight the fires with. So now you're getting Department of Water and Power involved. Now you're getting the state involved. And that leads up to Gavin Newsom. That's the truth. Because prior to now, or the reason that this happened was, and I haven't heard them say this in the last 2 weeks, the reason why this has happened was, they were hurricane level. No one it couldn't be stopped. It was a wildfire. Oh, they stopped saying that narrative. Okay. Because there's no water in the reservoir in Palisades. There was no water coming to the pipes. And then they'll sit back and say, oh, well, the system not continue working at this level because of, the usage of, that's a lie. It's because we had no water in our reservoirs. It's a fact that the Palisades reservoir was empty. Fact. It's a fact that the governor, Gavin Newsom, signed off on allowing 42 billion water that could have been preserved in terms of rainwater flow into the ocean. The diversion of water, because they want to, you have investors or donors who have crops that needs to be watered. So this is a dirty game. This is why their democracy has died with DEI. And this is why the American people have to separate ourselves from the politics, because the Constitution says we the people, and we need to embrace the Constitution, because our congressmen and senators, I'm going to stick with the Congress because this Congress that includes the senators, but our House of Congress has been compromised, and they do not work for the American people. They work for their personal gain. Just like with Karen Bass. If you're on her side, you went to the press conference, you stood there in solidarity with her, and you support what she's doing. Whether right, wrong, or indifferent, if you want to keep eating, if you want to stay in a position of power, if you want to the influence that you have, the fake influence, because you can't fake influence, but you can buy to it and get on the news channels every day and have fake influence. If you want to keep your status, then you shut up and do what you're told. And this is what former LA Fire Department Chief Kristen Crowley did not do, because she could not lie and pretty much try to make the mayor look bad. Because when the mayor came out and said that she should not have went to Ghana. Okay. I don't know if it's an annual trip. I don't know why the mayor of Los Angeles is in Africa. Oh, think about the money. Who paid for it? Who paid for the trip? Was it USAID? Are we developing Ghana? I don't know too much about that, but I know some security professionals, work those details in terms of diplomatic security when our officials go leave the country. So when you really want to get down to it, D.E.I. is dead. And it's sad that she's only been a chief for 2 years and that she was actually fired by a woman. Now, Bass being a mayor, a part of diversity, equity, inclusion. No. OK, but I do know without a shadow of a doubt, whatever power that be that got her in office. OK, that's who we got to be concerned, because the more shadier you are, more dirt you have on you, the more that they can actually control you. OK, because we have an individual in the city called his name is Mark Ridley Thomas, who caught some sanctions, and Bass was under that same umbrella. But somehow, some way, she came out squeaky clean, and she's the mayor. And prior to being the mayor, her personal home was breached. OK, and while being mayor, somebody breached the mayor mansion. So wouldn't you do what they tell you to do, especially if you're a woman? Think about that. Think about that. It is. So like I said, this is a time in American history where we're going to, like I said, we're going to rise with the tide. OK, this is a time in American history where you just can't tell us what you want to tell us. OK, action speaks louder than words. And then when you have a divided country, I saw an article in the Forbes magazine where Elon Musk basically said, to the president that, we found frivolous spending and wasteful spending of the American taxpayer dollars. We have money to actually send. And this was in Forbes, to send every American citizen $5,000. I hit the link, put it on my Facebook page. Somebody shared it. That's not his money to give. And I'm sitting back like, wow, what an idiot. What stupidity. OK, we got to start calling these things out, because individuals who we thought were wise and we thought had our best interests at hand, according to God, is using a fool to expose them. OK, let me see here. He said the police chief, not the mayor, was D.E.I. Let me see here. My bad. The mayor. OK, I can misspeak. So is the mayor D.E.I.? The fire chief was, for sure. OK, because she became chief in 2022 with the epicenter or the height of the D.E.I. OK, Joy Reid show was tanking, and she's a racist. Hey, I heartily. OK, black people, black women, and any women that's not attractive, they're the worst ones on the planet. She did her show without her wig on, and I was sitting back just looking at the nap that was going on in her hair, and I'm sitting back like, wow, somebody just put her up, because it was a day and time where you had to look a certain way. You had to talk a certain way to get on television, but that clearly was a DEI hire. That was diversity inclusion, because they went and got a peasy head, ugly black woman to basically be a star. And it lasted, when it lasted, but the truth came out, and it is what it is. A fool believes Daddy Trump will help you. OK, well, not the fool. The fool is Trump. OK, and that's Benja. The fool is actually Trump, because when I read my Bible, the Bible says that God will use a fool to compound. So you had, the wise Democrats, your elitists, your black elitists, we know what we're talking about. There's no way Donald Trump could be president of the United States. He's a felon. We've been convicted of 36 counts of this. He's did this, and all of a sudden he's a president of the United States. So I'm saying, in the sense of, so on the same sheet of music, that Donald Trump is the fool in their eyes. Okay. Because the fools is the herd. They're going to believe what they're going to. Okay. I'm just saying in the sense of prior to the election, if you look at the news outlets, there's no way Donald Trump could actually beat Kamala Harris. There's no way he could get in. There's no way the American people is going to elect a 36 count thing and all of this. And he beat her so bad that you couldn't even explain it. And think about it. And then now starting and with Elon and D.O.G.E, they're starting to find the beating, because we remember when Joe Biden beat Trump, they stopped counting the ballots that same night. And now when you have situations like the Social Security have, 1.9 million people who pretty much are over the age of 220 years old, did those individuals cast ballots in 2020? Think about that. And when they says, well, there's show us evidence of widespread cheating. No. We don't have to show widespread. All we got to do is show cheating. OK. And when you sit back and say, you look at the news, their talking point, they'll sit back and, Donald Trump or the MAGA people basically said that there was cheating in the 2020 election with no evidence. OK, is this the smoking gun? You have 1.9, literally 2 million people who are deceased that's been getting Social Security checks, and they're been getting cashed every cycle. Think about that. So if the Democrats put in during the COVID mandate, we're going to send a mail-in ballot. We're going to send a mail-in ballot to every American citizen. Okay, well, 1.9 are getting checks. That's the so we're going to have to send a ballot for them, and we can actually take those ballots, fill them out ourselves, and somehow steal an election. Think about it. This is how, the universe works, because that was the best thing that they could have done. Because if Trump would have got 2 terms consecutive, we would be in a strange place right now, because the whole term, the Democrats would have been trying to impeach him, trying to throw this at him, trying to throw that at him. But they paused it. They put Sleepy Joe in there, the president in American history, whose son's a crackhead and all of this stuff. And then now this year, Trump is back and he's ending democracy. And when I say ending their democracy by definition is governed by the people. Somehow, somewhere we have Congress that represents the people. So that makes it a sham parliament. So there's something that we got to do about that. And as we really pay attention, our elected officials, I'm going to say all, are compromised, because they have to do, they don't bite the hand that feeds them. So they have to do what they do. And based on what we're seeing, this thing is just basically a 30 days in. So it's going to get better and better and better. And at the end of the day, the benefactors will be the American people. Okay, because when you have a budget that we're running and our spending supersedes what we're bringing in, if our outflow is greater than our inflow, then that will be our demise. So now we have some smart businessmen. Let's go ahead and say it. Some smart businessmen that's in office, and they're running America as a corporation. There's individuals, there are entities investing in the United States. Okay. Nippon Steel has invested $2.5 billion in the United States because of the adjustments with the tariffs. So instead of using Canadian steel, we'll use American steel, which actually opens up the steel mills, which opens up factories that lost their steel mills to jobs and to create thriving and booming economies into areas that were neglected. Think about the automakers. Think of our manufacturers that went to Mexico. With the tariffs on Mexican cars, these corporations and companies will be motivated to bringing back to production of Americans in America to be built by America with no tariffs. So think about this. This is what you call, one of the greatest times in American history, because things are going to change. Now, Obama was the change president, and the only thing he wanted to change is with her son to a daughter. Okay. That's the only thing he wanted to change. He brought the LGBTQ movement and all of that. He was not for black people. He was not for the working class. None of that. He came in with an agenda, and his agenda in day one through the executive pen has been dismantled. So anything that has a solid foundation, that's the only thing will last. When you sitting back, progressively moving away from the Constitution, moving away from, our forefathers or the framers of this country. And there's some issues that must be dealt with and will be dealt with this administration. And that's the racism, because we're bridging the gap. OK, we got to find these loopholes and close, cross these T's and dot these I's to actually end it, because American people need to be together on one sheet of music as a group of people. About that. One race, and that's the human race. But America has some promises out there that they defaulted on. Okay? And based on what we're finding, it looks like every American citizen is going to benefit from that. It doesn't matter what color, race, or creed you come from, because we have some individuals that's in office. Number one, the richest man in the world is Elon Musk. And I don't have a problem with him bringing in his team that audits his corporations and his companies. OK. And as a government contractor, he has access to government industries. It's a government contractor. The United States, prior to the Trump administration, has contracted SpaceX to fly satellites into orbit. He's a contractor, and he's using companies, auditors, to pretty much find wasteful spending, which would be beneficial to America. And the USAID, the Department of Education, and the Social Security, these are the three that's on the hot seat right now, because they found trillions of dollars of frivolous spending. And then when you sit back and say that there were 1.9 million people documented receiving Social Security checks at the age of 119 years old, this is where you get your votes from. Now, people who want to sit back and say, oh, they didn't steal an election. OK, now think about it. This is how they stole that election. 1.9 million people who are deceased are receiving Social Security benefits. So if we decide under a COVID mandate that we're going to send an American citizen a mail-in ballot, do you think those 1.9 million people that's documented getting checks had anything to do with those votes? Think of that. This is why the first time in my lifetime that I've ever seen in my lifetime, on the night of the election, they decide we're going to stop the counting tonight. Usually they count all through the night, and by 2 p.m. on the West Coast time, no later than a president is declared based on the percentages. But that didn't happen with Joe Biden and Donald Trump in 2020. They shut it down, and then they started the counting again. And all of a sudden, something cast those 1.9 million dead people that's receiving Social Security benefits today. Let that sink in. We're dealing with the biggest scam, the biggest scandal, the biggest misuse of taxpayers' dollars in American history. And who's running this operation? Who's running the operation? Think about it. Who's running the operation? So now we're going to have to sit back and learn what they did. And these individuals are still alive. Okay. What you do for the devil somehow it goes in vain. Could you imagine your whole entire career? The world thought you were for the people. The world thought you was a goody two shoes. The world thought that you were, just as straight. And then in the end of your life, you 75, 77, 80, a career politician. And now, or you die, the world is learning that you were scamming your whole entire career and scamming your whole entire life. Wow. And this is why Maxine Waters basically told her constituents in Kingdom Day Parade 2 Mondays ago, we got to stop Trump and we got to stop Elon. They emailed me her, $6 million house in Hancock, a sprawling Santa Monica villa, 3 bank accounts. I could go on and on and on. They emailed that, but I'm going to let her live. I'm going to let her breathe a little bit, because I truly believe you have opportunity to get right with God on your deathbed. So any elected politician that's a believer, I think it's time for y'all to come clean. These books, separate. It is what it is. So now, wow, we figured this out in plain sight. So this is how they stole that election. Okay. And sometimes theories become theories. I had no plan on talking this. So now we got to figure it out. Now we got to do what we got to do. And now we got to be honest with ourselves. The scam is. We got to figure this thing out. We got to figure this thing out. And I know this is, the energy from the other side that's pretty much trying to infuse, but I'm going to go ahead and be totally honest with you. So we figured out the game. How did they steal that election? 1.9 million American people who are deceased are receiving checks from the Security Department every cycle, and every check has been cashed up until this point, meaning somebody is using those checks as living expenses. Fact. If I'm lying, prove me wrong, because D.O.G.E, the Department of Government Efficiency, said it best. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you what I'm talking about. I should, but the Trump administration pretty much read it out. Okay, it could be fake, it could be whatever, but as an American person, we need to be on the same side of music, because whether it's fake, false, or whatever, it have to do with you personally. Now, and if we were Luis Perez, okay, don't get deported. If we were on the same sheet of music, fighting for the same thing, no matter what the evidence, we're going to have to deal with it. So if there has to be an opposition, then that's the problem. See, individuals don't realize when they align themselves as the opposition, they're aligned with the devil. Okay. And we're dealing with positive versus optimism versus pessimism, and God versus the devil. So the herd does not know that they're controlled and manipulated by the devil. Because no matter what the situation says, if this was a court, and I love to do the court of public opinion, so hit the like, hit the notification, because we're ambassadors in the court of public opinion. Instead of being the prosecutor or the defense attorney, let's align ourselves as the mediator or the judge in this political courtroom, meaning we don't have no skin in the game in either side, because at the end of the day, we want righteousness to prevail. That's all we want. Righteousness to prevail. I don't care who. I don't care if it's the wise. I don't care if it's the fool. As long as we get a chance as American people to see the truth, because the truth shall make us free. And when individuals step out and their whole purpose is just to, stand opposition That's a suspect individual to me. That's a compromised individual to me, an individual that doesn't even love themselves. And he's saying in the comments he wants proof. And I'm gonna go ahead and say, listen, I already got my proof. Okay. Why don't you diligence and you do what we do and you go find the for yourself instead of relying on individuals to basically make you feel good. Okay. And this is what we call. Okay. Because as an American citizen, listen, my ancestors, this country on free labor, white Americans fought in wars. So we all on the same sheet of music. We want to see this country be as beautiful and more than she ever have, ever. This is what we want. We don't want to fight. We don't want to debate. We don't want to go back and forth. But those individuals who want to fight, those individuals who want to debate, these are individuals that are protecting unrighteousness, protecting sin, protecting, the worst things ever. Typically, when people do that, then they're a suspect themselves. Go ahead and expose yourself. Stand up as an opposition because knowledge is power. So it's time for us as Americans to look at the knowledge and with it, to really understand, because the Bible says God's people shall not perish due to the lack of knowledge. But you got devil's advocates out there that will be willing just to be, on the wrong side just because they're dumb, they're ignorant, and they much want you to get in that pig pen to spar with them. But our job is just to expose them for who they are. It is what it is. And I don't care who's in it. I don't care. This country needs to be dismantled and built back better. And that's one thing that I did agree with Joe Biden's was his campaign slogan, which they stole it from me, build back better. Now, Trump wants to make America great again. Okay. Now, I'm going to be honest. I want to make America great because, again, that's a possibility that my people will be slaves again. So maybe, again, for them, I don't know, but I'm down with MAG, make America great. Just like the Indian prime minister was there in the White House last week, and he said that they were MAGA, make India great again. So how are we going to, do our job, and how are we as American people are going to participate in this great nation? Okay, because John F. Kennedy said one of his best quotes. He says, ask not what your country could do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. And I'm challenging each and every individual that's on this line and challenging everybody in America that we need to do something instead of sitting back, pointing fingers, arguing and debating and divided much more, because we do have a constitution. We do have framers and fathers that pretty much gave us the blueprint, which is the Bill of Rights. And then we have the amendments. But what do we want? How do we want it? And we want it to be what we call the win-win. A great nation that has USAID being dismantled, $40 billion cents of an annual budget. You have the Department of Education, $219 million annual budget. You have the Social Security Department paying out billions of dollars monthly, literally, because 1.9 million checks go out that's been classified as dead because they have found over 9 million people that were supposed to be 219 years or older. They're the money right there. So we need to come together and work together and make a decision on what we're going to do as people. OK, whether it's lives, whether it's the truth, we need to get on the same sheet of music. I don't want no smoke from nobody. I don't want no. And all I want to do is see the people come together, because united we stand, divided we fall. So any individual that's on the opposite side of history, any individual that's putting their face on the record to defend the Democratic Party, you really got to look in that mirror, because we can't look to the left, to the liberals. We can't look to the right, to the conservatives. We got to look right in that mirror and do what we need to do. And this is how we're going to bring down the prices of eggs. And I just seen a hard pass put that in there. This is how we're going to come together and figure this thing out. And then you have individuals, where's the proof? Okay, listen, my job is not to give you the proof. My job is to give you the information that was given and basically do what I do. Use your expertise, grab this phenomenon, which is the superhighway, and get to work. Okay. Because at the end of the day, whether there's no proof or not, we do know that there's wasteful spending. We do know that there's departments that should not be existing. We do know that the federal government spending is too big and needs to be downsized. And we do know that Congress, our elected officials, are compromised. We know that without a shadow of a doubt. So I appreciate y'all. Hit that like, hit that notification, hit that. And it is what it is. Somebody put the demon, let me see here, Demon Party, not Democratic Party. And listen, I'm looking at the word somebody put in, Willie D put in the Demon Party, not the Democratic. And I'm looking at something kind of weird right now. And I'm looking what Willie put in. You got the Demon Party, not the Democratic Party. And I'm looking at the root word in both of those words. Okay. Oh, D-E-M-O-N, demon, D-E-M-O, crap, crap. So it's right there. And then if you look at the prefix D, descend, demote, it's all negative. So this was a threat to their democracy. This is why they stole the election in 2020. Newsflash. Those votes came from Social Security because 1.9 million people that's receiving checks right now got mail-in ballots, and some human being casted those ballots to steal that election. Boom, newsflash. Talking about the stuff moving forward. And like I said, the Democratic Party is the party of the devil. It's the party of Satan. So think about it. So I think we need to be nonpartisan independents. Okay. And if you don't remember, paid attention, we did a strong writing campaign. I wrote in my Savior Jesus Christ, and I was promoting that we did that so we could be in a position right now because we didn't lose an election. Okay. The Democrats did. So they're mad. We want to table. Okay. Because you're starting to find a lot of energy. You're starting to find a lot of frivolous spending and wasteful spending. And we want to be in a position to basically get that equity in communities of color, in communities of crime and poverty, and somehow make sure that all American citizens, the least of these, have their bare essentials. We got money for war, but we can't feed the poor, and that needs to stop right now. So with that being said, you guys have a wonderful day. Thanks for tuning in. Hit that like, hit that notification because we're going up. And with this said, I'm your man, Bushan Glover. Have an amazing day. Peace out.